Hello again and welcome to our December 2015 market update. I know everybody's thinking about the holidays, but there's lots going on in the real estate market. So we're going to share with you, first of all, our top stories in the news. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Greater Toronto market for the past year, then finish off with, the latest stats. First story from the Huffington Post. Average Canadian home price up 8.3%. Now to $454. And of course, when we drill down, we need to see that there's difference in the markets from the West Coast, East Coast, Vancouver and Toronto being the strongest markets, of course. Lots going on with oil prices in the prairies. And of course, East Coast is still a little bit slow. But overall, the Canadian market as a whole is very, very strong. Another article here from Real Estate Professional. Toronto tops the world list in housing prices versus rental costs. In other words, when we look at the average cost of condos in the downtown core, we look at the average rents, which are very strong, and vacancy rates approaching 1 or 2%. We still see that they have a very strong, in fact, the strongest returns on investments, or what we would call cap rates in the industry. So contrary to public opinion, prices for Toronto condos on average are not high at all relative to the income and remain a very strong investment. The National Post reporting on lots of speculation with respect to Ontario land transfer tax, and the province finally said they will not allow municipal land transfer tax beyond Toronto's borders. And little birdies down at City Hall also tell us that the mayor may be talking about reductions of land transfer tax right here in the Big Smoke in Toronto. So stand by for more updates on that. And this just in from Twitter today, in fact, Toronto City Councillor Josh Matlow is asking the owners of the Trump Tower in Toronto to change its name, citing the questionable strategy that Trump initiated recently, requesting that all Muslims be prevented from coming into the U.S. And following up on that, I found fantastic. This is a riot. Rick Kreisman, who is the mayor of St. Petersburg, issued on Twitter, "I am hereby barring Donald Trump from entering St. Petersburg until we fully understand the dangerous threat posed by all Trumps." Love it. Now, before we get into the local stats, let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in the last year, 2 years, and probably the most significant factor that explains the strength of the Toronto market, and for that matter, the Canadian market, is migration. Stats Canada predicts that on an annual basis for the next 10, 12 years, and really the foreseeable future, Toronto market alone will be growing by 100,000 people a year. Now, when you understand that on an annual basis, we sell less than 100,000 homes in total in the Toronto market, an impact of 100,000 people, which means approximately 40,000 new families, is certainly driving up demand. And whether they're renting or buying, they're creating demand both for single family housing and for condos. And statistically, about 25 to 30% of the new immigrant families will be buying within the first 2 years, and the other third are renting, which in both cases is driving up demand. At the same time, no changes to the Places to Grow Act. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, it's essentially the green belt. And the visual that you see on your screen right now shows the green belt around the GTA. So of course we can't build in the lake and we can't build north of the city. So we've created what I call a real estate island. And that's led to what you see as the Manhattan effect in Toronto. Same thing happened in Manhattan 100 years ago. They ran out of land, so they built up. Same thing going on right here in the GTA. A lot of people are wondering, are they building too many condos? In fact, most experts predict that within 3 to 4 years, in certain markets, we're actually going to have a shortage. There are exceptions with areas like Mississauga near the Square One pocket, or when we talk about North York, a little bit more inventory. But in the Greater Toronto market right now, we're only looking about 2-3 months inventory, because the perception is that they're building too many condos. Who's going to buy them? When in reality, when we look at the stats, on an annual basis, we're selling 80 to 90,000 homes in the GTA, and there's 20,000 new condos that came to market in this year alone. We're talking 2015. What most people don't realize, however, is that 90% of them are already pre-sold. So that leaves 10% or 2,000 condos, which represents, again, 2-3 months inventory, which still represents, by definition, a seller's market. It's still very, very strong. Now, another point that people have been talking about is affordability. Can people afford this? Well, when you look at what the banks use to qualify people for a mortgage, banks use something called a GDS, or gross debt service. They also use a total debt service. In other words, what's your income relative to your housing costs, your car loan, your student loan, your credit cards, all of that? That's your total debt service. And they will not allow you to finance with a TDS of higher than 40%. Now, other than the spike in the late 80s, early 90s, when people were speculating in real estate, and of course, we saw a market correction, for the last 20 years, we've been trading below the affordability number, and we're getting close to it, but all that means is that people can afford what they're buying, and people are buying in spades. Lowest interest rates in history, of course, and when we look at the forecast, I'm no expert, but I have talked to the experts. I've talked to most major economists who are predicting no changes really in the next couple of years. Of course, we're at a historical low for 5-year mortgage rates. There was a recent bump, and when we're talking best rates, you could get a mortgage for under 2.5% on a 5-year fixed. Now we're sitting at around 2.7, 2.8 for those that have AAA credit, jobs, and so forth. But again, the Bank of Canada keeps extending the forecast for rate increases. Their latest prediction, I want to credit my good friend Callum Ross here, is around mid-2017. But what's interesting is the forecast has always been about 2 years out, and it's been so for the last 3 or 4 years. So no change in sight as far as interest rates. Now, latest stats from the Toronto Real Estate Board shows year over year, Toronto MLS sales activity up from 8,500 to 8,800. And when we look at the average selling price, it's up to 630 from 587. So all things pretty much humming along now for the last 10, 15 years. But in a nutshell, 70 to 80% of listings are selling in most markets. They're selling in under 2 to 3 weeks, and they're selling for close to or more than full asking price. So the market is strong, still a seller's market, and if there's any indication of changes, you'll hear about it right here first. So, final notes. A lot of people that are looking at buying, that are looking at investing, tend to wait until after the holidays, and that's a big mistake because there's a lot of opportunity out there, both for first-time buyers and also for investors. Because the people that are out in the market, there are some more motivated people, shall we say. So there's some great opportunities to both buy and invest, and you can stay out there. We can certainly help you watch the market, look for those deals, but don't put off for another 3-4 months, because we're anticipating growth of another 2-3% just in the next 90 to 120 days. That could cost you money just for waiting. So look for those bargains. It's almost like, there's going to be the Boxing Day sales. Well, the Boxing Day sales on real estate have already started. If they're out there on the market right now, they're a little bit more motivated than others. And lastly, I just want to remind you, whether you're thinking about buying your first home or condo, or you're thinking about either starting real estate investing or expanding your portfolio, we provide a free portfolio analysis. Will help you understand what the various options are in real estate investing or purchase, help you put your dream team together. We're talking real estate lawyer, finance experts, and of course, your expert real estate agent. And obviously we recommend working with full-time dedicated real estate agents. Everybody knows a realtor, but you need one that knows the market you're investing in and the type of real estate you're investing in. And final notes, coming up in 2016, watch out for our video series on first-time buyers, as well as real estate investing basics, lease to own, property management essentials, and all things real estate. You've got questions, we've got the answers. Give us a call, fire us an email, find us on Facebook, or go to realintel.com. Get a hold of us. We'll get you the information you need to make the wisest investments in real estate in 2016. I'm Simon Giannini, and this is Real Estate Intelligence. Make it an incredible 2016.